Thank you all for joining us today. The Wednesday, September 24th meeting. Please rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I please have the reading of the mission and vision statements?
Mission statement: Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Vision statement: Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Up first, we have celebrations. Dr. Wright.
President Pickering, trustees, I'm going to ask that Mr. Sam Pritchard, our Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, approach us this evening to introduce tonight's honoree. Mr. Pritchard, welcome back to the podium, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Dr. Wright, members of the board. It is with much pleasure that I would like to celebrate and introduce to you Mrs. Bridget Hazebaker, our Director of Communications and Student Support, to give you a brief update on what she's been up to. Would you like to come forward and share, please?
Very good.
Hello, everybody. Just giving updates about the student support services. So we've been very, very busy. The family liaison positions have been filled, except one right now. So we have 7 positions at our buildings. They have also been passed out over 1,500 items right now for families in need. They are working roughly, the elementaries are 30 hours a week. They're at Test and Dennis, they're at 35 hours a week. We are also very excited to say that we are rolling off the care closet. The RCS care closet is it's semi-open. I'm not gonna say it's quite open yet. We still have just a couple more things to add for inventory and accepting donations every day. But we have received the shoes from Retail. We're receiving also in the talks, we're talking to the G113 with Duncan Broadcasting about the coat and jacket drive as well. Underwear, socks, folders, school supplies, you name it. So we're getting a lot of items in there. And then of course those items then we are working with the Richmond High School applied skill students with that as well. So those students will be filling those requests and then getting those items to our schools and to our teachers and families. So that's been working very well. Also, not to think other student support services is also with Meridian Health. They are in the plans of looking at Fluapalooza, adding that on October 9th for our families and students and staff to get the free flu shot here at our clinic here at Richmond High School. And then also we've had mobile dentists. So mobile dentists have, for example, at STAR, we had over 50 students receive a dental screening for them, and again at no cost. So so again, whatever we can do to help kids be comfortable, receive those support services at the buildings. We are looking at some challenges, some of the tutoring services that we've had in the past. Some of their funding has been cut in some areas, so still looking to see what we can do to increase those numbers to help connect our students to needed academic services and support that they may need. But again, Every Child Can Read has been helping. This is Margaret, but anyway, everything's been going really, really well. Lions Club is really helping us. We've had 11 students receive eyeglasses already this school year for through the Lions Club eye exams and that as well. So, any questions?
So, prior to the board posing questions again, just to additionally, as Mr. Pritchard had done, set the stage, and Mrs. Hazelbaker, as we know, is very humble and very reserved. She's one that is a self-starter and will grab the bull by the horn, metaphorically speaking, and get things done. And so all the tasks placed before her, dating back to two and a half years ago, and definitely this upcoming year, she has done just that. And we are so very grateful for her efforts, her leadership, the leadership of our faculty and staff, as well as the administrative teams, the corporation, and our community partners that just continue to showcase and highlight their talents in supporting all things when it comes to social, emotional, and student service supports. And so without Mrs. Hazelbaker's lead and without her vision, without her commitment to kids, who may be as compassionate as they come, she may even throw up her dukes, as we used to say in the 80s, when it comes to fighting for kids if necessary. And so we are truly appreciative.
Well, I think it's also just about relationships. But, like, what kind of relationships can we do and what networking? I mean, you all, me as board members, I mean, how many different boards are you guys, or, all your little pockets of support. So again, Richmond has some amazing supporters in our community, and not just, for, free items, but I mean, in-kind services. I mean, coaches. I mean, it's really quite amazing.
She can't stop talking about this service. She continue this for all about some questions for comments.
I would just say thank you. You are everywhere. I feel like I want to play your role and say, what did you bring with you? And you've shared and you're very passionate about it. And I see you everywhere. And you have your
Our family
hands.
liaisons did a poverty simulation today through the NACO Empowerment Center. So I think it's very interesting for our family liaisons, just so they can kind of empathize and understand some of the hardships that some of our families are experiencing of raising their children, grandchildren, raising their great grandchildren. So I think it's important just so we can get those services to those families.
Well, thank you for building those relationships with our families and
No,
students.
and I just want to say, I rarely meet a person in our community who doesn't know you. It's always kind of amazing. I was just at a Reed Health gathering, and your name came up, and of course, it's like, oh yeah, everybody knows Bridget. She's doing a great job. I'm also just I feel like we have been expanding our services, our wraparound services. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm seeing, and I want to applaud that. So I know that's more work for you. I know you do. It seems like you have an endless amount of energy. I just want to say thank you for that, and I do appreciate the work that our team collectively is doing to offer a wider span of services for
Well,
our
and
kids.
just at the care closet, I really want to make sure that we just give a big shout out to Miss Avery. She's the applied skills teacher and her team of students. Once we get this rolling, I'm so excited to be able to get those services to our kids and to our families. It's going to be really exciting. And I think that even for some possible grant opportunities, that could be an added bonus that we can maybe see about getting additional donations and services for our kiddos.
And again, the holistic service that we provide every student here in RCS is second to none in our county, and I put it up against anyone in the state and in the country for that matter. We're only getting better. And so, thank you so much,
So I
ma'am.
have the picture of the two of you.
Yes.
And so, if you can join us over here, as you
Are we doing selfies?
so,
Yeah,
so
selfie. Let's do one. Picture. Cindy's done it.
Cindy's doing it.
Perfect angle and students. Yeah, that way. For the video. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Moving up next, we have public commentary. Would someone say this? Okay. So for public commentary, those who wish to comment at this evening's board meeting, the maximum time to speak is 5 minutes. Please keep your comments fact-based and within the time permitted. Comments are not to be personally directed or abusive. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 9130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, but the board president will send you a personal follow-up email. Please state your name before speaking.
Rod Weiss.
Good evening, Rod Weiss, 1979 graduate. Madam President, thank you for the email and response the last time I spoke on whatever date that was, the 27th, I think, of August. You did put in there, however, we do want to ensure that comments remain factual and not personally directed or abusive. I do not think I was abusive to anybody here. I did not attack anybody personally. I just attacked, if you want to use that word, I questioned leadership. Okay. Press release. If you remember, I used the word I believe. That's not the same as I know for a fact. So know the difference. And I stated I believe Curtis was making 192,000 per year. The release was the press release that was sent out was obviously written by the school attorney per the direction of the superintendent and or the school board. Last paragraph stated misinformation by patron, meaning me. You can use my name. I referee in front of 10,000 people and I get called all kinds of things, so it doesn't matter. Indicating that Curtis' salary was $185,657.50. Not going to dispute that, but they'll do add in the $6,000 allowance, car allowance. In the eyes of the IRS, that's income that goes on this paycheck. It's not a fringe benefit. So you take that $6,000 and add it to that, you come up with $191,657.50. I was off $342.50. I think that's pretty good coming in cold. Previous press release, you also stated you put one out, bring a child to Richmond Community Schools. We offer free breakfast and lunch. What kind of message are you sending out there? That is the wrong type of message, in my opinion, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from the community. The press releases you should be sending out is, what are you doing about the test scores? That's what you should be putting out. Let's see here. I kind of want to revisit a little bit on another comment I made about a school board member that voted for his wife to become an administrator. Mr. Stevens, you've been a school board member for what, 3 decades. Mr. Cross, you've been our school attorney for 3-4 decades. One of you should have spoke out then and said, well, wait a minute. We need to pull this one administrator out. So then that way he can recuse himself from voting for his wife. That's proper procedure. That's ethical. We are still without communication, not knowing what our athletic director is doing to earn $12,000 more than the previous one. Plus, our middle school athletic director earning $109,000. And I believe that's his only responsibility. I know the Title IX report's coming out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there for that. I promised my son to go out to dinner with him before he flies out tomorrow at 6. He's a commercial pilot. So I would still like to see that released in its entirety publicly, of course, with the redacted names of any minor kids that were in that conversation. That's only proper. Here's another title infraction that was happening. I don't think it was brought up. Girls basketball last year. They utilized the Tiernan Center and the girls' gym. Well, they call it the small gym now. My days it was girls' gym. Boys tournament, they used Tiernan Center and we rented out Earl. That's a huge Title IX infraction, people. Okay, which, you know, our athletic department is what, 30,000 in the red. We can't afford those kind of expenditures. It's my understanding now. Moving on, my understanding is we have a kindergarten teacher that's finally going to start at Star after fall break, 2.5 months after the school year started. Still looking for a 4th grade teacher at Charles. I will continue to come to school board meetings to be outspoken to the direction of the superintendent and the board is taking us. I'm not against Richmond Community Schools. I want what is best. There has been a lot of communication from me to keep speaking. Does anybody know the poet Dylan Thomas? Great poet from Welsh. He had 2 sayings, and I will quote this, so I'm not plagiarizing. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And that's why I'm here, to keep fighting for this school corporation, the staff, and the students. Thank you for your time.
Next, we will be, oh, we have, sorry. One more.
Erica Pearson.
Hello, my name is Erica Pearson. I'm a retired teacher from the Richmond Community Schools. And I have just been having some experiences in the last week or so that I really want to celebrate in the ways that Richmond Community Schools is building community amongst all the students. Just yesterday, Mrs. Carter and I were able to be community volunteers at the Challenge Day at Dennis Middle School. And it was a very powerful experience. You've probably heard that before. I don't know if any of you have participated in those. But the students really allow themselves to become very vulnerable to each other and see the ways in which many of them have huge challenges that face them in their home lives. And they get much more compassion and empathy for each other. And one of the wonderful things I saw at the end was some of the young people, especially the young men, going around to each other and shaking hands and apologizing for things they had said or done to each other that had hurt other people. I thought that was amazing, that in just the space of one day, those facilitators and all of the community adult volunteers who participated were able to create an environment in which the young people could do that with and for each other. So thank you for continuing to sponsor that in the Richmond Community Schools. Also today, I had an opportunity to participate in a poverty simulation that was sponsored by the NATCO Empowerment Center. And Ms. Hazel Baker made sure that all the family liaisons were there, except for the one who was at Dennis helping with the Challenge Day, so that they could really have a hands-on personal experience of some of the challenges that the families who live in poverty face and the ways they have to go from one place to another to try to get support. And I was playing the role of a teacher in that simulation. And so one of the things we got to do on the third pretend week was sit in a circle and talk about what we can do to make things better in our community. And one of the people who was there, who was a family liaison from STAR, said, it's so helpful when we can get resources right into the school and when we can bundle resources together so parents don't have to go from one place to another to try to find glasses or dental care or whatever for their children. And I wanted to comment on a couple of the policies that you'll be voting on tonight. One is 2414 on reproductive health. Maybe you've already gotten a note about that, but there was just kind of a typo in it where by accident the fourth graders were left out. It used to read that 4th through 12th could have education in that area, and now it's 5th through 12th. So the part where it said teachers can answer student questions, it just says pre-K through 3rd grade, which leaves out the 4th graders. So just to make sure none of those 4th grade teachers get into trouble, before you vote on it, make sure it has the right language in it. And another one is policy 5517 on anti-harassment. I have read the old policy carefully and the new one is much improved. There are many ways in which it spells out how things can and should happen and provide even more support for the student who's the complainant or the employee who's the complainant, and provides for the opportunity for two students to sit down together with support from a compliance officer to talk through things if necessary. And I sent the president of the board some specific questions about how that information can be powerfully disseminated throughout the RCS community, not just employees, but also students and parents, so that people know what the procedure is and who they can talk to if they have a problem and if they're concerned or if they're feeling harassed. And that is also a powerful way of preventing problems, preventing bullying and harassment. And I've already, even though I only sent the email less than 2 hours ago, I've already had a response from Mr. Mops, so I'm excited about that. But it'll be very important to make sure that it is posted throughout the corporation as the policy states, and that it is easily available on the website for students and parents to find, and for teachers really to know what to do. And I bring that up because 3 years ago, 2 different students brought things to the coalition where their teacher had not known what to do. One was a Hispanic student who had another student spit on his hand and wipe it on her hair. And she took it to a teacher, and the teacher wasn't sure who to take it to or how to follow up on it. I won't go into the other because I'm out of time, but that's why there are sometimes real instances where people need to know what to do so that it can be taken care of. Thank you very much.
Now we will move on to item 4.01, which is our public hearing for the 2026 budget, capital projects, and bus replacement plan. So I will officially open the public hearing. So I will suspend the business meeting of the school board of trustees and declare the public hearing open. The purpose of this hearing is to offer the public an opportunity to hear information on the 2026 budget and comments and questions regarding the 2026 budget's 2026 to 2028 capital projects plan and the 2026 to 2030 school bus replacement plan. So we'll have a presentation. So Mrs. Karen Scalf, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance, will present this information, and we will invite questions board at the conclusion of the presentation.
Good evening. So this presentation is primarily for our public. However, board members, there was a lot of information provided to you a couple of weeks ago. And so this really just puts it into a neat little package. And so as we continue with the budget process later next month, at the next meeting, we'll continue on through this. But for tonight's hearing, we're going to do kind of a high-level view of the budget. So we'll look both at the projected or requested amounts that we have in our budget, and then what we expect to see once things actually get calculated and moved through the process. All right, so first and foremost, our notice to taxpayers. This is actually posted on the Indiana Gateway, and Mr. Hazelbaker is pulling it up for me. Our taxpayers, there is a taxpayer portal on the Gateway. If you look Gateway Indiana, you will see that all entities that are a tax-based entity, so your counties, cities, libraries, townships, and schools all are required to file all of their budget documentation on this platform. So you can get these notices for each unit in our county, under Wayne County, when you search that in the Gateway. This notice provides everything in one package and on one form. So for our budget this year, we do have 4 funds that we apply for a budget through the Department of Local Government Finance. Those are Rainy Day Fund, Debt Service Fund, Education Fund, and Operations Fund. Each has a different mechanism for funding. So Rainy Day, you have to have cash reserves in order for that to be funded. And currently we have reserves of a little over $4.1 million. And so we are strictly going to request these funds as a placeholder for something that we'll talk about a little bit later. The school bus market has been a little challenging as you've had to order a pretty far number of months in advance, if not years. And so we have utilized this mechanism to at least get them ordered so that we can get them in the correct amount of time. The debt service fund is a tax-based fund on real estate and property tax. It is something that is based on a tax levy, and it is only the amount of our debt payments in a year and any funds required to pay for the services of those bonds. So We do have some small parts and pieces that we have to utilize to maintain those bonds, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The education fund is also a state funded fund. It's a little bit different. This you have to request your appropriation, but the funds actually come through student count. So they come from state distributions that are not tax based from the property and business personal property side of things. They come from other tax revenues. So that's something that occurs through the budget process at the state level. And we just are asking for the authority to spend through this budget process. The operations fund is the one that primarily we see the most fluid changes year over year, and that is a levy-based fund as well. We do get a maximum levy. This fund is impacted by not only legislation, but also tax legislation on business, personal property, and real estate. So we'll talk about that pretty soon as well. All right, so the education fund, this year we have proposed a budget of $44,441,433. This is much higher than what we expect based on current student counts. We expect to have a cash flow budget of a little over 39 million. And we do propose higher because we are always having to plan in the event that we do have student growth or that there's changes in distributions through state legislation. So you do leave yourself some room for that. You monitor your budgets through cash flow. The board gets monthly reports of that to know exactly where we are at any given time in that fund, so that we can always make sure that we are only spending the revenues that we are projecting to get. So even though we're going to request the authority to spend more, we aren't actually going to spend what we don't get. A part of the education fund also is a transfer in the operations fund. This is changed to legislation a few years ago when they created the education and operations funds. The operations fund does contain what used to be in the general fund when it was called a general fund. And those are some of the central services, your custodians, your technology for infrastructure, your business office, your HR office, and central office services that are not curricular. Those now are in the operations fund. They used to be in the general fund. So part of the mechanism that the state granted when the creation of these two separate funds were made was to say, we're going to fund that through these state funds, but you have to transfer it. So that's what that is. It is an up to 15%. You do not have to take 15%, but it is an up to. So that's just a direct correlation with whatever revenues you get. In the education fund, how do we spend the money? So we get the revenues through state funding, state distributions. The state tells us what we're going to get. But how do we use it? And in the education fund, it is 100% to classrooms and curriculum. So salaries and benefits for all of our teachers, for all of our teachers' assistants, for office staff and principals, all of those curricular staff members that work in a school or directly touch a classroom, those salaries and benefits are in the education fund. Also, professional development and professional services that directly impact the classroom are in the education fund, as well as any supplies and technology that directly touch the classroom. And that's the big piece to the education fund. The allowable expenses directly touch a classroom. Debt service fund, we talked about this a little bit before. So this fund is based solely on our payments that are due next year on the 3 bonds that we currently have outstanding. So we have the 2020 general obligation bond, the 2021 leasehold bond, and the 2024 leasehold bond. And those payments will total $3.215 million. We are asking on our notice to taxpayers for quite a bit more on a tax rate. And that is to make sure that the mechanism for the calculation can occur correctly, but our projected tax rate will really look more like 22 to 23 cents. That's based on our current assessed values, which we'll talk in just a minute about that. that's where we will probably land close to. So those are just projected estimates. The Department of Local Government Finance will do all of the calculating once they get a lot of the information. But I do like to provide a projected tax rate. That is also based on what we know today. There are a lot of factors that play into the budget calculations that are beyond our control at the school level. Assessed values, taxpayer credits, abatements, things that are beyond our control. And so we just do the best that we can to project them. And then once we get the actuals, we make sure that we have the information that we need to. And then the projected levy, we are asking for $4 million. They will make sure that those debt payments get paid. And so it will probably look a little bit closer to that 3.2 or a little bit more. But we ask for 4 so that we can put a little bit to the operating balance so that you have a little bit to pay your next payment. We do have payments in July, so we like to ask for a little bit so that you can slowly accrue to cover that. If we don't get that, we do temporary loans to where we transfer from a fund to a different fund just for the short term. And then we move it back at the end of a year. So that's how that works when we don't get extra to just cover that. And then at the end of a bond, that extra gets paid out on your last payment. Okay, the operations fund, and we'll spend a little bit of time here. This is the fund that has the most just different parts and pieces to it. And so it's something that I like to spend a little bit more time on. It is levy based. So we do have a max levy that the state sets, and that is a calculation based on some factors in a state law. For us, that's the easiest way to put it. Unless you do it every day, it's just a lot. And so the estimated max levy that we have been given by the Department of Local Government Finance, this is also located on our Form 3 or our Notice to Taxpayers, is $11,453,890. Of that, we have requested a levy of $23,710,163 because you want to always request more than what you know you're going to get. Where we probably are going to land is that max levy, $11,453,890. But because of the way the tax has to be calculated, you want to ask for quite a substantial sum more. You have to have some pieces in that they want to see so that they can use calculations accordingly. And that is why it does look substantially more. We do expect the 11. So we base the actual cash budget on what we actually are going to get. So some notes on our assessed values this year. The report was issued a couple weeks ago, and it is looking like we are going to see 7.5% growth here in our tax unit. And that is a very substantial sum. We have not seen 7% growth in a really long time on assessed value. And so whether that is due to trending or whether that is due to just the real estate market or whether that is due to new builds, it's probably a good mix of all of it. That is what we're going to see and anticipate. So our current assessed values for 2025 are $1.7 billion. We are looking at, with that 7.5%, we'll be closer to $1.8 billion. So with an increase in the assessed value, if our max levy stays where we think it will, which is very close to this year, we're looking at a decreased tax rate next year than what we have this year. Now, I'm going to caveat that with there are factors beyond our control in the tax base, and there are things that can happen. There is debt that could happen in other units. There are things that could happen on the assessed value side as far as credits and taxation changes or even requests for reassessment that might change those things. So we can't guarantee that it's going to be a lower tax rate, but based on the information we have today, that's what it looks like as compared to last year. So, or this current year. So, with that, how do we use operations funds? So we know that we get that through levies. We know that that levy provides us with the revenues that we know we're supposed to support all of these things. So transportation of students, all of our utilities, any replacement of buses, and we're going to replace 5 72 passenger buses. That's what's on our plan this year. Facilities, any maintenance, any new projects, repairs, things like that, all happen in this fund unless we use bond funds or specific other funds that we might have, such as grants, donations, things like that. It does support central administration, as we had already talked about, and then custodial and maintenance services, as well as infrastructure and technology. So that's one thing. Technology can be broken out into classroom and infrastructure through these funding mechanisms with different funds. So we do a little bit of that to make sure that those classroom pieces are reflected as classroom, because we do report all of this to the state. Okay, so the operations fund, we know how it's used now. So what are we looking at next year? Because next year is a very special year. And I will say special, as in special can be really great or special can be really not great. And so we are probably looking at interesting. Okay, I'll put it that way, or unique. So we have some challenges ahead of us. Throughout the legislative process this last budget season, there were a lot of new things presented and a lot of even newer things passed. With that, Senate Enroll Act 1 is the biggest that impacts all units across the state. We were one of a handful, and I do mean a literal handful, of school districts that hit every negative trigger that's in the legislation. So we are expecting to see some major changes to what our funding has been in the past, as opposed to what it's going to be in the future. So as we prepared for that, I thought it would be good to review with our public what we are going to be seeing and watching as we look at the budget next year. And so we are probably going to take an extremely cautious approach to how we handle the budget next year, not knowing for sure what this is going to look like until it's going to be about April or May, when we start seeing the abstract of taxes done at the auditor's office and tax collection starts to come in. So 2026, because this is a 3-year change, and then it's actually a 10-year change for portions of this. So this will only start the process. So this is going to be a whole new world for us. But in 2026, the Legislative Service Agency has provided us with a base estimate of where either losses or gains will be in revenue based on this legislation. So the estimates are very, very wide in their differentials. One estimate says that we could lose as much as $584,000. The next estimate says we're going to gain $288,000. The estimates that show gain have some data that is not very current. And so I will lean toward we're probably going to be on that losing end more than we are on a gaining end. But we're going to monitor that. We're going to see where we go. We're going to watch that abstract super close, because I'm fortunate enough to have calculated that abstract in my past life. And so I can at least get that, see that, and then we can move forward and create a plan based on that. In 27, you can see those estimates continue to grow, and they spread again. And then in 28, they also grow. The one thing that is interesting is these are not one and done. They are on top of the next year's. So if we lose 584 this year, then we're going to lose another 630 on top of that, and another 556 on top of that, with the way that the taxation laws now are and the impacts of the timing of when they come into place. So for us, we are looking at a very substantial change, and this all affects the operations fund, because you have to pay your debt. So that is, they are going to fund debt, and then everything else will be impacted from there. The other piece to the legislative puzzle that we received is that other entities were provided with mechanisms for shifts. and they could take out different taxes to help offset some of this loss. That maybe spread it a little bit, wouldn't have been quite as impactful in one direct way to a taxpayer, but it gave them some revenue to help with their loss. Schools were purposefully excluded from that option. So we don't gain anything from the new taxes that might come through this process. We are going to sit where we sit, whatever this looks like next year and on, at least at this point. So legislators are always working on the next session. We are in communication with our local legislators, trying to work through how this is going to affect us, what this is going to look like. Can they help us? What are things we didn't consider that they didn't consider? All of those things. So we are talking with them and we'll continue to do so throughout the fall and into the spring. They have been very good to listen, and they have even been very good to stop and find us at places throughout the community. So that has been really nice. Some things that we're going to see, LIT funding. So that's the local option income tax. That is going away for schools. The certified shares portion will not be there anymore. And for us this year, that was $501,000. So in 2028, it's gone. We just don't get it anymore. The other piece is the business personal property piece. There is a new mechanism that anything under 2 million is credited off. And then at 2 million and on, it's taxed. That is a substantial amount of property that is currently taxed that will not be taxed in the future in our district. We are primarily commercial district, between commercial and homestead. And so that will be a significant impact for us. So we will see what that brings. They do, I believe, they're probably going to talk about that a little bit more in the next session. So we'll see. But right now we do stand to lose based on that credit that business owners will see. Homestead deduction changes, that is also a part of the upper portion of the numbers. There are really big differences for our homeowners coming next year, and they are really great for taxpayers. As a taxpayer, like, I am loving it. As a school person, I am really not loving it. So there are substantial credits coming that will drive those deductions into even higher places. And that will definitely help our taxpayers, but it does not help us as a unit, making sure that we can get what we need done in this fund that impacts all of those operational services that you need, and that in most cases you are required by law to provide in order to make sure that school can happen appropriately for students. So what are we going to do? Well, we have some work to do here at this table. And we've already started that. We've started conversations here within the district, both internally with administration, at the building levels with our principals, but also with the board. And so as we talk, what our first and foremost thought is how can we keep students first when we know that this is going to be really hard? And so as we talk, things may get hard. We might have to make some really tough decisions, but we are going to monitor carefully. So those cash flow reports are absolutely vital to the board and to the administration to make sure that we are watching where everything is going, making sure that we are planning ahead and making sure that we are right sizing and realigning things to make sure that it fits what revenues we're expecting, because that is our only approach that we can do. But also we know that we need to realign the resources so that we can maximize what we do have. The other thing is that honestly and very, very transparently, we are going to have to make reductions to meet these revenue forecasts. That is not an option to just stay the same. These are tremendous numbers. They are ones that continue to impact year over year. And so we are going to have to make reductions. We're going to have to look at operationally how we do things. What can we do? Are there ways that we can do this differently? And so as we look ahead, I just wanted to let our taxpayers know we are very aware of this. It is on the forefront of all of our conversations. We talk about it on an at least weekly basis. And if I'm not talking about it 3 times a week, and I know that the team that is sitting directly behind me is already tired of hearing it from me, but it is something that we are going to be visiting each and every week, making sure that we work ahead so that we don't get behind. And then we'll continue to do that throughout this entire process. So that is the budget for next year. We do expect to see the final budget about the week of December 31st. It's usually our Christmas gift. And then we will make plans for the implementation of the same next year. Any questions? Any commentary from the public?
Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Scout? I have one. When, I don't remember when exactly next year, once the GLGF, they go through everything, when do we get that sort of final budget?
We get it the like Christmas week, so
Okay.
it's by statute to us by December 31.
31, okay.
So yeah, so we have to have it as we begin the next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carol, what is our current tax rate?
Our current tax rate is just over 82 cents.
Okay.
So we expect it to be about the same next year with the increase in assessed value. It'll probably stay about the same or go down just a few.
Did you think the assessor hit a lot of people this year?
Yeah.
It's good on one hand and bad when we get our tax
I am
bill.
I am hoping that it helps our circuit breaker credit, because right now it is the highest that it has ever been, and we are at 40% plus. So we see $5 million of our 11 immediately taken off. And that is something that it's just statute. And so like to talk about it, some people are really tired of talking about it, but from the perspective of our public and you, the board, we have to just understand it looks like it's there, but it's not going to be there. And so when we're planning for that, we just try to make sure that we're watching that carefully, and that portion, it really affects facilities and the transportation piece and bus replacement quite a bit, and those services don't get cheaper. And so that's something that, from the market value of how much things costs, it's really hard to look at, as you're not getting growth in those funds and you're actually seeing higher decreases. So it's just something we have to monitor. Next year, on the facility side, we really are going to tackle the rest of those bond projects. And so primarily we'll see mostly routine maintenance on that side. But that will also give us a year as you're working on strategic planning and what that looks like, to make sure that we can align that to where the next plan fits. We do that each year. We make sure that all of those expenses and those items that we do matches up with those items that you have told us throughout the year are important. And then that is something that, as we look ahead, we'll continue to do with all the work that we're doing. So,
And then at our October 8th meeting is when we will vote to approve the 2025
correct.
budget.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and then it has to be submitted to the DLGF before November 2nd. So immediately following that approval, we just submit everything through and finish it out.
Okay.
Great, Ms. Pickering. Someone signed up to comment during the public hearing just now.
Okay.
Yes, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Scout.
All right. Thanks.
Ron, did you sign up to speak during the public hearing regarding the budget?
Yes.
Yes.
How did you know? Is this a time to where there can be some dialogue or not? Or is it the same?
Same process for public commentary,
Okay, well-
but it's specific to the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very fine job on the budget report and everything. It's scary. It really is. The budget would help if we had more students. Would you agree? We've got over 1,000 students that's in our school corporation going to other schools. So we need to figure out a way to draw them back in. We have to, because that will shorten that big span that she just showed us. That's number one. The other thing is that, you know, we do not know what's going to happen in the real estate market. You know, if the assessed values go up, that should increase the tax revenue on that. The other scary thing going into this next year is, if I'm not mistaken, again, if I'm not mistaken, this is a bargaining year for the teachers. And if we're already looking at reduction, it's going to be really tough negotiations. So as Mrs. Scott said, there's going to have to be some tough decisions made just to get past this first year to see where we're actually at. And, you know, that's all I can say. Thanks.
Great, so we have no other comments. I will officially close the public hearing. So I would like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So motion by member Schultz
Second.
and a second by member Reynolds. All those in favor, will be saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. So 0. Okay, moving on to consent items. So consent items, item 5.01, approval of minutes, 5.02, human resources, 5.03, accounts payable, 5.04, monthly financial report, and 5.05, the RHS Philharmonic overnight field trip to Chicago.
I move that we approve the consent items as presented.
Second.
So motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Stevens. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Up next, we have action item 6.01 is donations.
I move that we accept the donations as presented.
Second.
So motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Loriaga. Any questions or comments?
Just want to acknowledge the extraordinary generosity. 35,000.
Yes, 35,000. I know Reed's donation was on here for the cost of shoes, which was 16,000. So any little bit helps though. It's great to see people supporting programs and our students.
And just to highlight, that was 335 pairs of shoes that were donated by Reed, which is amazing. So thank you to Reed Health.
Yes.
Thank you.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 6.02, Ivy Tech Welding and Certified Clinical Medical Assistant MOU.
Moved. Go ahead. I'll move to approve item 6.02, the Ivy Tech Welding and Certified Clinical Medical Assistant MOU.
Second.
So motion by member Loriaga and motion by member Brand and the second by member Loriaga. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to highlight that this is what the Richmond Redevelopment Commission is helping finance. So that was recently approved, and they're excited to hear how things go. In fact, I guess I'll be talking about that here in a little bit, but just wanted to say that it's fun to be seeing the MOU come before us tonight and see all of this work that's been done come to fruition at this point. So very excited about the collaboration with Ivy Tech, the opportunity for our students to be working towards understanding the welding field as well as the clinical medical assistant field. I feel like we're doing our community a great service, to be honest, in matching our students with these community partners. So just excited about it.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So passes 6-0. Item 6.03, which is the 2025-2026 Fire and Rescue MOU.
Madam President, I move to approve action item 6.03, the 2025-2026 Fire Rescue MOU. As presented.
I'll second.
So motion by member Stevens and a second by member Brand. Any questions or comments?
Just, again, making sure that we have created a bridge between the community and our schools for students who are interested in that particular field.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So passes 6-0. Item 6.04, request to advertise for Fairview Bell Tower.
I'll move to approve the request to advertise for Fairview Bell Tower.
Second.
Same motion by member Brand and a second by member Stevens. Questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 6.005, 2025-2026 MOU Richmond Adult Education with Wayne County Jail.
I move to approve item 6.05, the MOU Richmond Adult Education with Wayne County Jail for 2025-2026. As presented.
I'll second.
That was a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Schultz. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Sorry. 6.06, which is request for approval for alcohol service for the Richmond Art Museum.
All right, so I'll jump on that. I move to approve item 6.06, the request for approval for alcohol services for the Richmond Art Museum.
Second.
It's a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Aloriaga. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, they left the number of security personnel, that line's blank. And then type of security personnel, it just says RAM staff. Is that, I don't know if this is maybe a question with the policy, but I would think we'd have an actual security firm or off-duty police potentially. I mean, when I hear security, that's what I think anyway.
I know that's what they've done in the past.
Yeah, again, it might just be an issue with the, maybe we need to approve this policy.
Policies based security.
It says security, yeah.
And alcohol is presented.
It says the number and type of security personnel who will be present at the event. And then the requirement that those individuals are there at least 1 hour prior and 1 hour after.
And that is that on there,
Good catch.
the actual request.
Yeah, I mean, so again, the total number is blank. And then maybe I don't know, maybe these guys are security professionals by training. Could be wrong, but that doesn't strike me as security.
But it's possible.
Yeah, I think that maybe we need to clarify in the
actual policy.
policy so that, because I know there's a special policy that calls out the facilities specifically, they're kind of excluded from the having alcohol on school grounds, but then maybe we just need to.
It's policy 7436 is what I'm looking at, and that's where this is under their umbrella of that, the included areas that we can sell alcohol, but this is one of the specific lines that it lays out, so. Which I feel like it kind of failed to meet.
When is our next policy meeting? I think
Next year.
October.
And this event is scheduled for November, and so
But I believe we have to pass, isn't there a 30-day prior to?
I mean, I think we can just, and maybe this is a question for you, Ron. If we approve it, just follow up with RAM and say, you know, if I, obviously I think the policy is probably a little vague, like what does that mean, security? If it means, if they've been like tooth trained, or if they've been, does it mean like RPD, does it mean an SRO?
Well,
Does
it
it just
says-
mean a dedicated
Policy doesn't dictate what
person?
security sources they have to use.
Mhm.
We talked about that at the county level, but the fairgrounds right now, it's a very relevant issue. So it is pretty much fact sensitive. And I think if we have a question, there's certainly nothing wrong going back and just saying, we'd like to have a number, but a couple of things we look at. Look at the type of service, beer and wine, and it's being sold. The policy requires that it cease to be sold an hour before the end of the event. The event starts at 4, it ends at 8, so you're looking at a 3-hour window there. Their estimate of attendees, I don't know, that's their bailiwick, not ours. But so I mean, I think your questions are valid. I'm not sure the policy per se needs to be. I would hate to see you make a really restrictive policy to solve a problem that may or may not exist. Aaron, this is more his area than mine, so
My bigger concern simply would be clarification on define what security is and how many will be there. Thank
I
you
think you'd
also
like
for
to know.
bringing that up.
Yeah, and the line 7, it says the type of security. So is that saying armed, unarmed? Is it what? I guess we need maybe definition on what that even means.
Well,
Just from
it
experience.
can only be armed if they're law enforcement officers.
Well, right, but I mean, if we had all as security, I mean, it's not.
I mean, they
Well, but we're not allowed to have arms on school property.
Yeah, you can't.
So-
Yeah, law enforcement can't if they hire them security, right?
Well, I think my question would be back to the ramp staff is, because it is vague, but if they're, because it's for alcohol, so if they're also drinking, maybe considered security. That's where I would, do they have just a dedicated person to be,
That's
the
more
kind of escalation point?
kind of
That's
maybe
kind of what
a
I.
third party, somebody that's not involved, maybe
It's just there to protect.
just there, yeah, just there
Watch.
for that reason.
To have like the eyes out, not that anyone's getting out.
So pretty much if we approve it tonight, can we get a definition of what security means? I guess, or define it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious on their previous ones, because we've seen so many from the boards, like what did they put there, what did they use? I feel like it needs to be like a conversation, like,
Well, I
what you,
remember
what you.
last time this triggered like the whole conversation about alcohol in school grounds, and then we kind of totally shifted, because I think it was about if they could do like a blanket.
Right.
And then we fully shifted to that alcohol piece, but I don't remember exactly what.
Nicole, if I may ask you, if you've been to this event in the past, has there been police presence there?
No, there has been staff, the RAM staff has acted in the role of security, and they do not drink. They are facilitating.
I think for me, if that's
And there's
just being
multiple, yeah. So,
We just observed one of the recent, one of the previous RAM applications, and they it's hit or miss at times. They'll include a number of security officers, other times in which they have not. But we'll continue to explore this, but I think we're still overvalued. And these are great points. I guess.
I would just ask for future reference,
Yes.
next year when this comes before us, if it's specified the type of security, the names of the individuals as well as the total number. And I think that
That suffices.
Is this in the gallery rooms also, as well as the main hall?
Yeah, typically it would just be like in that main area,
Okay.
you know, when you first walk in. But I mean,
Outside.
yes, usually the galleries are open, so if people are wanting to meander in those areas. But I would say, I feel like there's usually two for sure, but typically three of the staff that are available. And so, I mean, if they're expecting around 75 in attendance, you know,
One per 20.
one for every 25, you know, I don't know. Yeah. It may be that we need to talk about this during a policy meeting, you know, and say, what's our comfort threshold? You know,
I think we might want to look at it because I think it also is venue restricted.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't mean in a given case the board can't give an event that is, you know, for most obvious would be the under tents for class reunions. It might be athletic field areas.
Right.
That's been an issue in the past, but I think the policy has been there so long it probably needs to be reexamined. But again, I'm not sure we've had a lot of problems either.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any problems.
You don't have problems, so you have a problem.
But
Take some.
would rather.
A little bit.
Yeah.
No, you don't want there now.
But I think you're right. We need to define it. I think and be clear on how we proceed in the future so that we don't arise in this situation again. I think this goes.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously there was a philosophical issue that had to be overcome the first time. That is to have any alcohol in the school property because the presumption is you don't, and then this is how you're going to find the exception and what terms the exceptions must comply with. So, I mean, I think everything's fair game, but I think there is a little bit of institutional reliance on the fact, certainly from RAM, but I think they're not alone. Some of the other
And we all definitely want
organizations
to make sure that protect rain.
have
And the alumni.
have an expectation that it's permitted, that they know they have certain obligations, catering permit, dram shop liability insurance, that type of thing.
I think we have that other policy that doesn't allow RCS employees to drink on school grounds. So if you're an RCS employee going to this event, you can't drink alcohol or any event for alcohol served on school grounds. So it's sort of, or you can't drink before you go to the event, even if you don't drink at the event, which I know we got the weeds about. So I don't know how to solve that.
Well, I guess, yeah, in policy.
Yeah,
Policy meetings.
Yeah.
Policy meeting.
So, Pomodoro vote front, do I need to recuse myself? I know there's no remuneration involved.
I mean, I don't know. You don't get a pecuniary
That's-
benefit
yeah,
from this, and that's the legal test. So
Okay.
beyond that,
So I don't.
that's the legal test of conflict of interest. There's common law, and that's just what is the appearance of impropriety, and that's something that you have to judge for yourself. This is such a recurring issue with RAM. I don't think it's any surprise they're asking, they're coming forward. So it's up to you if you feel you need to, but there's no legal requirement.
Is this something we feel we would want to have just Mr. Jones or Dr. Wright just follow up? Just with so moving forward and then we can.
I would think that's.
I mean, it seems like,
Yes.
well, make sure our policy's clear so they know exactly what to do in the future.
Well, and again, I would like to put it on our docket to
Yeah.
review for the policy meeting.
Yeah. But I don't want to make them.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
That's not so that. Okay.
I think it's clear on asking for the number, it's the type, I think that we need to.
Right. If we want to see a little more
Or do we
clear.
need to determine the ratio? I don't know.
I was gonna say that. I don't know if there's a
That-
security personnel ratio per person.
That would be a good thing to bring up again in a policy.
Policy
Because
meeting.
now, because I know that as a police officer, when we go to functions, there are functions that require police presence, there is a specific ratio, which will determine how many officers are needed. I mean, so. And it comes down to safety for the officer, but in this case, safety for whoever's working security as well, so.
So, all those in favor, pending just some follow-ups and clarification on their application. Vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Vote passes 5-1. Moving into policy review. Let's just say policy. We have item 7.01, which is policy 2414, reproductive health and family planning and human sexuality instruction, third reading and approval.
I move that we approve policy 2414 and bring it into final approval. We can't talk about it until
we can't. I think maybe, obviously there's a missing fourth grade piece.
But again, we can't talk
I
about
know.
it until.
So
Okay, I can revise my
you
motion.
should revise your motion, yes.
Okay, I'd like to withdraw my motion and revise it to say that I move that
Correct.
we move policy 2414. We can move it to fourth reading, I guess.
If you do, I'll second that motion.
We need to
Yeah.
revise.
Okay.
So fourth reading.
So that's a motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Stevens to move to fourth reading. Any questions or comments?
I just
Oh,
go.
I would just say, yeah, it came for the board and then we went to policy. We heard feedback from board and from community and then it came back here. It's just the history for anyone who wanted to know how it came to be to where it is now.
We were advised that there's a missing grade, which is problematic. Sorry. Ian.
No, that's okay. I still, there are some questions that I have. I know that Mr. Pritchard and Mr. Mops have been very helpful in clarifying some things for me, but there are a couple other things that have sprung up since speaking with him that I just want to get clarification on.
Okay. So all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
And this is to move it to fourth.
Move forward.
Yes, move it to fourth.
Is it going to go back to policy committee before it comes back and forth? Is that the,
It sounds like we need
it
to.
needs to.
okay, except,
Yeah.
I assume that, but I wouldn't put it on.
Keep tweaking this one.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.02, which is policy 5111, determination of legal settlement and eligibility for enrollment of students without legal settlement in the corporations. Proof of Indiana residency, second reading and approval.
President, I'd like to move policy 501 to final reading.
So motion by member.
Policy.
Policy.
Actually, it will be,
It'll be-
for approval.
For approval.
I'll second.
So
It's
policy.
Policy
5111.
5111.
5111.
So the motion by member Loriaga and a second by member Stoltz. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.01, which is policy 5200, attendance. Second reading and approval.
Madam President, I move to policy update 7.03, policy 5200, attendance. I ask that we approve it on final reading.
I'll second.
That was a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Schultz. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.04, which is policy 5223, released times for religious instruction, second reading and approval.
I move to approve that we approve policy 5223, the revised policy on release time for religious instruction as presented.
Second.
Same motion by member Stevens and a second by member Oriaga. Any
President Dickey, if I might, I have no problem with that, but I do believe this policy begs for some guidelines and administrative guidelines as to how it's going to be implemented, what documentation is required, what have you. There's just a lot of nuances, and I don't think we want to put ourselves in a position appearing to be obstructionist, but we also, statute has certain things that are expected, and I'm not sure, in our limited experience to date, whether that's been clearly understood. So that's kind of putting it on you, Dr. Rice.
Yes, no, you're fine. And to Attorney Colston's point, there are still particular aspects and guidelines that we will need to devise as we learn more about how to maintain compliance with statute regarding this policy and regarding the state statute as
Then if it's really not clear at this point.
Well, but those details are housed in the guidelines, administrative guidelines, not in the policy. So we could still pass the policy.
That's typically how it goes. The policies passed,
Mhm.
the guidelines.
Guidelines come about the policy.
Yeah.
I think we took a look at it with the policy committee and had a reasonable comfort level, but the devil's in the details of what it did.
Yes, I mean, this is a state mandated
Right.
policy, which is what we've gone over in policy, meaning about what we are required to do legally. And then, yeah, I think there are a lot of nuances, so maybe it's time to ask timeline for administrative and stuff. This, I think it's kind of, becoming a pressing issue if you get questions or what does that look like timeline wise to create admin guidelines around this.
what we are currently on is speaking with one particular institute that has interest and also gleaning from other school corporations around the county and the state as to how they implemented this particular policy, or at least put it in motion. And so, to answer your questions with regard to timeline, I'd say here within the next 3 weeks, we feel confident that we can work with, of course, Attorney Cross.
And I think everybody has to understand the policy itself is statutorily driven.
Right.
So it's, like I say, the details are what we need.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.05, which is policy 5600, student discipline, second reading and approval.
I move that we move policy 5600 regarding student discipline to final approval.
Second.
Same motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Brown. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.06, which is policy 5605, suspension and expulsion of students with disabilities, first reading.
Move that we move policy 5605 to second reading.
Second.
So motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Stevens. Any questions or comments?
This looks like it came to policy meeting, but it's an update from Neola from the last legislative session. So it's a small update.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.07, which is suspension and expulsion of students, first reading.
Move that we move policy 5610 to second reading.
Second.
So motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Brand. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.08, which is policy 5517, anti-harassment, first reading.
I make a motion that we move policy 5517, anti-harassment, to second reading.
Second.
So motion by member Stevens and a second by member Oriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.09, which is policy 5771, search and seizure, first reading.
I make a motion that we move policy 5771, search and seizure, second reading.
I'll second.
A motion by member Stevens and a second by member Stoltz. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Okay. Moving on to, I think this evening, student transit update.
Madam President, trustees, I'm going to ask Mr.
Steve Jones come to the podium to introduce this evening's return guests and school partners. Saddle Transit, Saddle Student Transit. Jones, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Steve Jones, I am Director of Operations here. We been requested to have our bus, our transportation department come and kind of talk about how, a couple things, I mean, how the start of the year's gone. We got software, we have, I mean, there's no discipline issues on buses. I mean, I know that, so. Said it with a straight face. Somebody's got to be true. No, I mean, it's, anytime you get that many kids in one spot with only a couple of adults, we all have that. So, but we have Tim Rowe, who is actually he's based out of our bus garage over there. And they walk, and he is yes, he's one of the big wigs, but I went ahead and bring them up and I'll be quiet.
And Mr. Jones, I apologize. Prior to both of us remaining quiet, we also have a third member of the student transit team that is very reserved and shy and humble, but very serviceable. And she is
Angie Linville. But I will tell you is that Angie told me on Monday morning was, I don't want to talk. I don't want to be seen. I don't want, so Dr. Wright, you just got me in a lot of trouble.
It's okay. Blame me.
I will hear about it tomorrow. Sorry, Angie.
I might call you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Madam President, Dr. Wright, board members, thank you for the opportunity to come today. As many of you know, back middle of last school year, we made several changes within the operations department and the student transit. I've asked Tim to come up. I think you're going to be very pleased with the changes. We've still got a lot of growth to go, but compared to where we were this time last year, compared to today, I think everyone's going to be very pleasantly surprised and happy with it. Yep.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it very much. Won't take long, just some highlights here. So looking at some of our data that we threw together here, rather quick, we've got student ride times, or students riding over an hour within the district. Went through all of our routes, talked to drivers, did some research, and we found it's below 30 students district-wide that are on the bus for over an hour, which is a huge improvement from last year at this time. We have average ride time for students district-wide. In the AM, it's 52 minutes. PM, it's 51 minutes. So that's average, obviously. And then again, that's district-wide. Our goal is 45 minutes or less. That's what we strive for. That's our aim. So we've got room to grow, as Dave alluded to. So, but we're getting there. Total buses running this year at this time, 26. Last year we had 20. total drivers working AM and PM. So we have some people that work AM, they can only work AM, they can only work PM. But total drivers working AM and PM, right now we have 26 drivers. Last year at this time we had 21. So an improvement. We lost a few. I know at the welcome back breakfast, we were pretty close to full staff, if not. And then literally that afternoon we came in and 2 people put in their resignation. So that's just the nature of the beast. A year and a half into this, I'm saying this is how it rolls, So, but again, we do also have that. All being said, we have 7 sub drivers. So thankfully, if any of them are listening or check in YouTube later on, thank them for sure. Again, these are people that have full-time jobs outside here. They might work for Rumkey, the city, or whoever, and they come in, hey, I can run in the morning, I can run in the afternoon. And these people are lifesavers. They really are for the kids and for us, for the community and in general. We have 2 drivers in training right now. The one driver is going for his test next Thursday, October 2nd. So we could have another driver. It usually takes about a week after that, going through all the legalities and everything. Have another full-time driver onto that 26. We have to 27. The other gentleman is going on in mid-October for a test. I'm not sure that exact date yet. Also want to add, we have 14 bus aides this year, monitors. I like to call them monitors, which is huge. As Dave alluded to, you never have any discipline issues on the bus, which obviously we all laughed at, chuckled, but this is helping. This is helping greatly with that. You're never going to get rid of it, obviously we know that, but this is helping our drivers be able to transport children safely and responsible, get them home safe. Other than that, not a whole lot. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. Is there any questions? I mean, you guys got to ask some questions for us, I would imagine.
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I appreciate the update. I think obviously last year you all really came to the table and we were able to partner and just sort of trying to solve issues and make it better. So I think that is great. And just as a parent, I haven't had to call Angie at all. I just speaking for myself, but just an overall that I was one of the challenge people. It's just everything has been running smooth. I appreciate the new app. I can track. I do complain that I live in a dead spot. At my drop off, I can stand in my house, but then I have to drive down. It's a dead spot. But I think it's very, very helpful. So if parents do not have that, get it. You can track the bus. You can see where it's at.
Yeah.
It's invaluable. Yeah. So I think that is really.
And we encourage people to do that if people are whoever's listening out there. And when we get phone calls, we encourage parents to do so. We're also going to get phone calls as part of it too. So, but we encourage them to get the My Right K-12 app. We also encourage them for the parent squares. We still people. Please take advantage of parent square. If you're a parent out there listening, please take advantage of that because that's a tool where we can just instant bam, get a message out. Hey, this bus is running 20 minutes behind or 15 minutes behind or whatever it is. Usually about 5 minutes or less, because we can catch back up, and I don't want to throw people off too bad, but if it's anything over 5 minutes, we're generally putting out a message.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Jones could allude to, we've talked numerous times this year about, what's the complaints, and we've had very few. We know there's issues, we know there's challenges. We're far from where we want to be, but we're getting closer. We've had we've talked to different principals, different schools, and the on time is much better this year. We had one high school that was a challenge out in the county. Those 30 students we were talking about earlier, those are all county students, and those are our highlights of where we want to, as we get drivers on board, we want to break those in half and get those times even shorter. Yeah, it feels like there's something else I wanted to say, but I'm drawing a blank. Yes, sir.
I hope that you express to all the drivers how much this board and it really appreciates what they do. They're the first, in many cases, they're the first representatives of Richmond Community Schools that those students will see, and also the last ones also. And it's a thankless job. We know this because you have to deal with the unknowns on any given day, not knowing what happened prior to the student stepping on the bus. But and the fact that you were not only able to retain, but also increase your numbers, from 20 to 26, or from 20 to 26, from 21 to 26, drivers to buses, to subs and everyone. It's a thankless job, but at least they're committed to it, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, and yes, I appreciate that, and we'll definitely pass it on. I know there's a few listening tonight, but we'll definitely pass it on. And then shout out to all of our team, our mechanics, our drivers, yes, everybody. Mm-hmm. We've got a really good team out there, and like any other business, there's challenges in that too. But I mean, everybody hops on board. If there's an issue, all hands on deck. People get it done, and they're just outstanding. And it's a pleasure. It really is. I mean, there's times that you wonder, but it really is. At the end of the day, it's a pleasure because the impact they're having on the students and the community. And we couldn't do it without our team. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So, anything else from anybody?
I just simply want to thank you all yet again, as we all have consistently exercised our gratitude. But coming into this role 5 years ago, I think the standard was set by you all's predecessors and previous leaders that you would come, face our board, face our community, share the good, bad, and the indifferent, and sometimes the ugly. But you maintain steadfastness and exercise resiliency, and so we appreciate that. And we appreciate the care that you put into our community, school students, and their parents and guardians as well. So,
yeah, we appreciate that. And welcome anybody anytime to swing by, or if you have any questions, give us a holler out the garage. You're more than welcome to come out and hang out and just see how things are rolling. It may be a little crazy, so you can take it, I'll just tell you, but come on out and visit at the same time. We appreciate any feedback, like say negative, positive, anything. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we will move to item 1, which is our title update. I have a video prepared. So, we will be having a video from our attorney from CCHA. I know that. That will kind of be providing sheets and dispositions all day today. So, just for the general public, she'll be providing some information and context. So.
And so, just as you have stated, President Pickering, we have Attorney Jessica Billingsley from Churchill National. She provided a voice recording, and we have a graphic here so that folks can see where it is that the President looks like as they hear. Mr. Hazel Baker, whenever you're ready, sir.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to present a brief summary of the high school Title IX Gender, Equity, and Athletics report. I appreciate your time. Unfortunately, I am unable to join you in person today as I am conducting a deposition on the other side of the state. However, I wanted to ensure this summary was delivered clearly and thoroughly, so I've prepared this recorded presentation for your review. In the next few minutes, I'll walk through the scope of our review, the process we followed, our key findings, and a summary of our recommendations. For all the detail on what I discuss here tonight, please be sure to review our entire report, which has been provided to the board. At the outset, Richmond Community Schools engaged Church, Hill, and Antrim, my law firm, which I will refer to as CCHA throughout this presentation, to conduct this targeted assessment of gender equity in athletics, or Title IX, of Richmond High School only. No other schools in the corporation were evaluated. Further, Richmond Community Schools requested that CCHA analyze the specific areas of participation opportunities, publicity, locker rooms, practice and competitive facilities, scheduling of games and practice times, and equipment and supplies. Collectively, the treatment areas reviewed. Because Richmond requested a targeted audit, the following areas were beyond the scope of this assessment. Those included support services, medical and training facilities and services, assignment and compensation of coaches, opportunity to receive coaching and tutoring, and travel and per diem allowance. Over the course of our engagement, CCHA reviewed documentation Richmond provided that was necessary to complete the assessment. We conducted in-person interviews with various student athletes and virtual interviews with Richmond leadership, Richmond athletic administrators, and head coaches. We also toured facilities at Richmond High School and off-campus to assess athletic facilities used for athletic teams. This is a good place to highlight that under Title IX, compliance is assessed by evaluating the athletic program as a whole, rather than comparing individual sports. The law requires a program-wide analysis to determine whether overall opportunities and benefits are equitably distributed between male and female athletes. Now for a summary of our findings. Those are listed at the beginning of the report, and there are 6. Number 1, Richmond needs 54 additional female student athlete participation opportunities to achieve proportionality and thus cannot comply with prong 1. For prong 2, and this is all under participation opportunities, for prong 2, Richmond has actively added sport programs, including girls wrestling. However, participation rates among girls at Richmond dropped in the 20 to 21 school year during the COVID-19 pandemic and have remained stagnant since then. Richmond is unlikely to be able to meet prong 2. To meet the requirements of prong 3, again still in the participation opportunities analysis, Richmond would need to engage in more formal information gathering and review to confirm interests and abilities. Moving on to number 4, where unequal treatment was identified in treatment areas, female student athletes were generally treated less favorably than male student athletes. These deficiencies, though, were neither insurmountable nor pervasive. Number 5, some coaches and players believe funding discrepancies are justified by a team's fundraising efforts. However, this view is inconsistent with Title IX, which requires that benefits and opportunities be equitably balanced regardless of the funding source. And number 6, our final summary of findings. Many areas of noncompliance could be remedied through greater communication and regular monitoring. Next, I'll list our recommendations, which totaled 14. So number 1, we recommend standardize and clearly communicate the process for setting competition schedules. Number 2, continue proactive steps to secure more competition for girls wrestling. Number 3, consider alternating prime time slots for boys and girls teams, particularly boys and girls basketball. Number 4, clearly communicate the criteria and procedures used by the transportation department in assigning buses for athletic travel. Number 5, monitor transportation bus assignments to ensure all teams have equal access to preferred transportation options. Number 6, consider developing an equitable rotation or time-sharing agreement between football, girls soccer, and boys soccer for the use of the turf field at Leibold Field. 7, remove and properly store tennis windscreens during the winter months to avoid degradation. 8, continue working to improve the softball field at McBride Stadium by installing field lighting, constructing a permanent restroom facility, add permanent outfield fencing, repair or upgrade the scoreboard and public address system, and improve accessibility for the softball field. Number 9, relocate where the girls wrestling team practices or remove safety hazards from the girls wrestling room. 10, develop a plan to provide equitable, private locker room facilities for the boys wrestling team. This could include, but not be limited to, allocating existing locker room space or incorporating equitable space in future facilities plans. Number 11, develop interests and ability survey and guidelines for the use of the results of such surveys for adding sports, both boys and girls sports. 12, create a content calendar to ensure equitable promotion of boys and girls teams across its website, social media platforms, and the school's morning announcements. 13, develop a standard athletic department policy or procedure for the use of monies raised by athletic teams through fundraising efforts. And finally, number 14, form a student-athlete advisory group to allow more student input in athletics and potential earlier detection of concerns. As we write in our report, rectifying the areas of non-compliance identified will require deliberate attention, oversight, and ongoing communication. But as we stated earlier, the challenges are not insurmountable, but rather opportunities to build a more equitable and inclusive athletic program. The recommendations are designed not only to address current gaps, but also to position the district for long-term success in meeting both the spirit and requirements of Title IX. We thank you for the opportunity to conduct this assessment and your continued commitment to equity and compliance. We appreciate your attention and look forward to supporting the district as you continue efforts and consider the recommendations moving forward.
You, Attorney. So I just wanted to sort of open up, just so the public knows that the full Title IX summary audit will be made available tomorrow morning. There will be a press release going out just to the general public, so they are made aware. We also have put some FAQs together. So the 14 items that the attorney addressed, there will be specific FAQs to kind of go out. So I know we kind of wanted as a board to address some of those items that were specific callouts in the Title IX findings. So I think one important thing for the board was, we had talked about doing a Title IX audit. I believe it was last July, before some things kind of came up.
That conversation started before I came on.
Yeah, it has been sort of a several-year conversation, but it kind of really came up. And then we had approved this agreement with CCHA in October of last year, and to kind of get this ball rolling. And just to reiterate, the 4 areas that were audited were publicity, locker rooms, facilities, equipment, supplies, and scheduling. So hopefully this is okay, and you all do have a copy of that FAQs in your email. Sam? I just double checked. So, and some of this, we had worked with Ms. Volpe and Mr. Lee at the high school to get their feedback on a few of these things and how we are addressing, and a lot of these things have already been addressed. So I know the first thing up was, and this might not be in order, competition schedules, and the athletic department uses a standardized method, which I believe has probably been tightened up a lot to hopefully not have any issues in the future about the method communicating, how they set up schedules, how they set up games, and procedures will be added, I know, to the coach's guideline. That was direct feedback from the athletic department. Girls wrestling opportunities, because that was a new sport last year. I think it was kind of learning as they go, and trying to figure out which schools were participating, and getting Richmond name out there. I mean, we had so many that signed up for the first year, to really look for that competition. So as the last year being inaugural, I think that will only grow. The next item was primetime slots being alternated between boys and girls team. I know that's primarily for girls and boys basketball. So this feedback we received from athletic department, this is already being considered in scheduling. The schedules do run, I know, in 2-year cycles. So that may be a work in progress to kind of get those switched out as we have agreements with other schools and set games out for several years in advance at times. Next up was transportation. So how are buses assigned? And I know the coaches provide transportation needs, department time or departure time, location, number of people, bus type to the athletic department. So it's just trying to make sure that the coaches are aware. They're responsible for requesting those and to make sure there is a equitable way, especially for the white buses. I know those are, I think we've gotten feedback that sometimes those are the preferable bus, but to make sure that those are, you know, divvied up equitably for girls and boys teams. We had one of the items, which was a big one, which we had already addressed, is the volleyball field sharing. And I know that sort of came up because it's football, boys soccer, and girls soccer, but because there were 2 boys teams to 1 girls team, that kind of came up as an issue. But in the 2023 bond, we approved the practice turf field, which will be right outside the south end of Tiernan Center. That will be completed next year. That will really help. You know, I think as the board, having that field is not just for soccer and football. You know, I think our hope is that band, PE, you know, devilettes, any athletic event. We've got middle school that come over and want to have practice on the turf or have games. So there will be an overflow field there. So the tennis facility improvements, that came up as a summary finding. It was mainly on windscreens, and I believe they are purchased new each year, but then since boys and girls tennis is split seasons, by the time it's girls season, they are worn and aren't as effective. But with the 2023 bond funds, all of the tennis courts are being redone completely redone from the ground up. So that will be addressed, and especially with facilities on storing those to make sure that they remain pristine. Next up on the list we had talked about, and this has kind of been a work in progress since we purchased McBride facility with softball. So I believe the softball field upgrades, I think this is right. McBride belongs with the RHS budget because it's an athletic field. I think that's what Mrs. Scout told me. So those items are planned and are in the budget to hopefully start. I mean, it's been a work in progress with the softball field, but field lighting, permanent restrooms, outfield fencing, scoreboard, PA upgrades, and improved accessibility at McBride Stadium. Those things were all in the works to be addressed since we just purchased that property. It's been 2 years, a year and a half. Yeah. Yeah. So, practice space and locker rooms. There was a summary finding on girls wrestling practice. Just limited space, but the girls wrestling room has been relocated to the upper deck of Tiernan Center. We did have gymnastics up there, but they have a new little working relationship with the gymnastics center out off of Ogden. Yes. So gymnastics has moved out there, which frees up space for girls wrestling to have practice space on the upper deck of Tiernan Center. Another item that came up around wrestling were the boys wrestling locker facilities. So they practice. I never knew this existed in a little fun upstairs space. Sometimes by the pool, and they have a little makeshift locker room up there, but they do use the football locker room during meets. So you know, hopefully that little makeshift locker room that they like to have is gonna disappear. But I don't know if they're gonna like that. But we want to just make sure that they're safe and enough space. So, program development. I know one of the call outs were needing 54 additional girls to be equitable. And some of the remedies around that, you know, you can't decrease the number of boys to provide equitable sports. So it's looking for ways to provide new opportunities or different sports for girls. And I think this can also extend into sort of extracurricular, not actually sanctioned, just solely sports. So I know the athletic department is working on, if they haven't already sent it out, a survey that they should send out yearly for interest for new sports. The IHSAA always has emerging sports, which I know I believe two were recommended in the report. Lacrosse and was it rugby? One was lacrosse. Okay. So we think how to remedy this is finding ways of making sure that it is our job to gauge interest. And if we are showing that, you know, we might not just get a bump up of 51 girls, but we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for them to give us information. The promotion aspect of promoting sports is, and I think our athletic department has done a great job so far this year already. Really, I mean, I think Kevin Hanley's really tired, but he is doing a great job if he is listening, especially on Facebook, really promoting sports, getting the kids, you know, the up and coming, the schedule, you know, making sure we have that content calendar for equal promotion across all platforms. And then it was somewhat discussed. I don't know if it's really a summary finding about the fundraising policy. So there is a fundraising policy in the coach's guideline. I think one interesting thing that I found in this when we talked about fundraising is there's a lot of different philosophies on if you're a coach and you raise funds. Technically, those funds, I think they're going to say you can keep those funds, but then the athletic department has to provide an equitable benefit to other sports. So we have one program raising a ton of money. I think the options are A, you share that money across all sports, or B, the athletic department, aka school corporation, has to provide somewhat the same benefit. I don't think that has to be monetary. It could be uniforms, right? That equal. So I know that is something that Mr. Lee and Greg will probably be working on as far as policy with fundraising, because it is vitally important. I think if teachers think it's a lot, take away money from any sport. And then the last thing is how do students provide input? So there is a student athlete leadership team, SALT, that actually started back in the spring. I know if you have seen on social media, they just went to a conference this week. Is that right? That I saw. I don't know if Mr. Richard, do you know where the SALT team, the student athlete leadership team went? They had a little conference.
We went to Newcastle to Palestine.
Got it. Yeah. So, and maybe we should have them at a board meeting soon, just to kind of get feedback on things they learned. I think that would be great. So I think that's a good piece that was already implemented in the spring. So those were sort of the items. Like I said, this will all go out. We wanted to provide a quick reference guide and our voice to it. So I will stop chomping now and open up the floor for any comments that the rest of the board have with their experience around this. Or
I just wanted to say that I was relieved that this audit did indeed, it confirmed that services are indeed equitably distributed between the girls and boys athletics. Personally, I appreciated just having this checklist of recommendations to work from. And I thought there were some great recommendations that I'm excited to implement. Some of these were like, oh, we hadn't thought about that, or yeah, that's a great idea. So I feel like there was a lot of benefit in receiving that feedback. So
I wanted to add that, and as a board, it was important to us to understand this fully, and so we toured the high school and the facilities. We met with the athletic director and the principal to walk the spaces and understand and really dig into this report. We met with the lawyer and had kind of a Q&A and explanation. We had lots of questions to understand the report. And although they didn't find any Title IX violations, they did give us recommendations, and we're really committed to doing better, being better. Something that I learned personally from just talking to the lawyer during our Q&A was that Title IX doesn't, and this is exactly, well, not exactly, but this is what she said. It first of all, we honed in on sports, but really Title IX is just equitability, across academics or our facilities, or but we honed in on one little piece. But you can't, and she said people most often want to say, let's compare girls basketball and boys basketball. And that's not how this works. That's not how Title IX is written. It's about program overall. And so that helped me understand better, I guess, Title IX and how that works. And I wanted to add, and we want to be transparent. And so the entire report, it's unedited unless we check some names out for
I
privacy.
think the one thing that may not be included is the interviewee list.
Okay. Just
although
for
it
privacy.
wasn't names,
Yes.
It does have all of the titles, coaches, whoever was interviewed, and that will not be included.
Okay,
Just
great.
didn't want them to be hounded about anything that anyone thinks they may or may not say. So for privacy, that will be the.
So the transparency of the entire report will be there, just not the names of the people interviewed. So it's just an effort for us to say, hey, we're not holding anything back. I think Church hit on Antrim. They've done lots of these Title IX audits. They're kind of experts in this field. And so it was really great to be able to pick their brain and for us to fully understand and start to dissect some of those recommendations that we care about when we're moving forward. We're always evolving and growing, and we want to do better. And I think this found some areas that we can do better in, and so we're working on that.
thank you for explaining that to the public too, like how things, because we've learned a lot in this process. So it's good to share some of that with the public.
Does anybody else have any comments, thoughts? I can say I did get a lot out of touring the facilities. If any of you have went to school here, especially, it is completely different. I even had questions of dedicated locker rooms, right? We just have a gym locker room and all the girls teams are in this locker room. So it's just a different thought process. So, when we've been hearing things, it was hard to imagine because you're like, wait, when I was there, where is this locker room? I couldn't even picture certain things. So it was good for us to walk around and see those things. And now that we've done this, like Kristen said, this can be opened up and, audits can be done in education. Not that we're going to fully just start throwing those out, but I think it is really beneficial. Sometimes it's just the little thing that you don't quite even think about comes up, and sorry. But like I said, report and press release will go out tomorrow. And I don't remember what the principal says, student contact, and questions. Probably Ms. Hazel Baker, so. Okay. Moving on, up next we have 10.01, which is the RBC update from Ms. Stoltz.
All right. So yeah, we met on the 16th, and there were several things that we approved. The RDC okayed the Northwest 5th Street corridor. So what that's talking about is from I-70 coming into town, basically to Earlham for the most part. A lot of Earlham parents, that's how they, that's their introduction to Richmond. And there's some beautification that's needing to be done. And so there's a study that's being, that we okay to do. So I don't know that that really relates too much to RCS, but it's something that was passed. And then something else that was okayed was a new street sweeper. Any ideas on how much a new street sweeper costs? $300,000. So I was like, all right, so got that approved. And then Depot District, there's an intersection there that is going to be getting a makeover. And the interesting thing is they're gonna try to, it's right in front of Ullery's. So if you can imagine that intersection, they're gonna try to connect it then to the Cardinal Greenway and kind of connect those two spaces. So yet to be determined on how, but those were three things that were discussed. The thing that directly relates to RCS, like I said, with the welding and the medical assistant, they are wanting to know when we know how successful the programs are. Does that make sense? So basically, they're wanting some feedback. And I said, we don't know yet, like to be determined. However, they would love for someone to come and report back to the RDC and say, hey, this is the success that we've seen. Or these are some things that we need to tweak. And so that's kind of, they're interested. And I said, we will report back. So
interesting enough, I almost said, Member Stoltz, I spoke with Dr. Bolzer, just yesterday, and he had an anecdotal report to share that things are going very well.
Good.
And I know he, as well as representatives from Ivy Tech, as well as our fine administrative team from RHS, led by Mr. Amos, will glad they come in and provide us with an update.
Yep.
Provide you all.
Well, again, we're just getting started. We just did the MOUs tonight, so just excited to see all of the years in motion. That's it.
Send a consolation to you. There is legislation that is being presented right now with the full support of ISBA in regards to voting membership for board members with RDC.
So you're thinking that that's going to pass?
Broken, right?
That would be great.
It was a very unanimous vote amongst 180 some delegates.
Do you know how hard it is to sit there and not get to vote?
Yeah, and then the last year, you're just like,
yeah.
I thought it was just a hair problem, but no, it had resounding support from other people. So.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, 11.01, which is open forum. Does anyone have anything they want to bring to the board?
I have a couple. Okay. The first one, just a celebration that I renewed my teacher's license for another 10 years. So it expires in 2035, and it was important to me and to do the continuing ed and CPR and it was really a complicated process. So I'm happy that.
Did you do the literacy endorsement?
No, I do not have to do that yet, but I will for the next round.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a time period where, so. And the second is that Aaron and I attended the 76th annual fall conference, the ISBA in Indianapolis. The theme was All In for All Children. So I'm just going to give a couple highlights. I'll be brief. I know it's getting late. Dr. Katie Jenner, the Indiana Secretary of Education, was there and spoke. So that was really great. A few of the personal sessions that I went to, one of them was just to how to talk to your, how to impactfully talk to your legislators. So I got a lot of good feedback on that. It basically boils down to don't bombard them with all the negative stuff. They need to hear that, so that's okay, but they need to hear the positive things too, because if they only hear the negative, then they're not gonna listen to you. So that's kind of in a nutshell, like 2-hour conference, but above all, it's important, obviously, to talk to our legislators and bend their ears, but remember to lead with respect. That was one session. Another session was about improving attendance through effective communication. Really, those chronic absenteeism issues in our district, and really, what I learned is you really have to lead with empathy, and it's kind of the same story when you're talking to people. You need to talk with them with empathy, so that, and we want students to be at school. They need to be at school. Give them a reason for meaningful, learning and engaging. So that's a quick one. And the other one I wanted to talk about briefly was I went to a session on how to optimize funding for your district, which I thought was super important since we're talking about the budget and possible cuts. And it was really all about utilities and cutting energy bills and doing a conservation audit. And there were districts there who had really looked at their rates and their bills for utilities. I noticed ours in the budget was $2.2 million for utilities for 2026, and how having an audit and looking at ways not only to help save money in utility area for our corporation, but how it helps the environment and how it's just the right thing to do. And so it's kind of a win-win, do the right thing for the world and bring our utility bills down. So I have a lot of good ideas on how to go about that I'm not going to share here, but we can have conversations about, because I know we're going to be looking at every kind of area of the budget. We heard about operations, and this is one category that we may be able to impact. So that's a quick rundown of 2 days of conference. I don't know if Aaron wants to add anything.
Keynote speakers were incredible and emotional.
Yes.
And some emotional. One of the sessions that I went to was, well, actually 2 of them. They were by 2 different corporations. One from Plainfield and the other one was from another corporation up north. But it was based about aligning our allies in the community. That we need them here in the front rows of our, not just our board meetings, but also they're the ones who tell the story and get the word out there. And we have to get a focus on our allies, those people out there who are fully supportive of us to spread the word and spread our message. Let me see, what else did I? There were several that.
No, you told me about the ones you went to, and I
Yeah.
can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah, they're in my other thing. So, but it was a good conference. I appreciate being able to go again. Workshops were impactful. I say that, and still, have brain loss right now. So that's because I've got another meeting to go to. So anyway, good conference.
Thank you guys for representing us and for bringing back the.
And Bridget Hazelberg was mentioned numerous times in conversations with people, at the conference.
So she's known outside of Richmond.
Nice. Any other items? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I don't have, one question. So I believe we had 43 new Head Start employees that started today, is that right?
And we're oriented.
With that, I would love to know how the mass onboarding went, and how
Well,
that's.
That's a great question, and I'm going to ask that Mr. Stacy Mullins, our Director of Human Resources, come up to share a brief synopsis as to what the day-long orientation looked like for all the newly oriented educators that will be starting with us next month. And I know that it was a truly collective effort by so many different entities. And so, Mops, you really can just tell how much hard work you all put in.
Yeah, it was great. We used this room. We had 3 different sessions. We brought the admin team in first, and then we brought the Townsend and Mapleton group in, and then we had the early Head Start group, which is on South L Street, and then there are some at the administration building there. And so we did them in 3 groups. We had a whole group session, bringing back my old school days. We had a whole group. My executive assistant, Lisa Font, went through a lot of paperwork. I said, you've signed so much, you're not buying a house. I promise you're not buying a car. So they did a lot of that. And then after that, we did small group sessions of clocking in, of checking their absence, how to put in an absence, getting their badges, going through insurance. They were doing their I-9s. That's a big deal. What else did we? Bridget did a really nice job. Boy, she is getting it all. Bridget, but she did a really nice job about social media and how we really use Parent Square, and we want things to be consistent from now, early childhood infant, to graduation of 12th grade. We want parents to have that consistent communication, so they're not checking one mode for one thing and another mode for another. So Parent Square is what we do, and you actually heard it from Tim Rao today when we heard from the busing. So we did all that. It was really good. We planned on an hour. It lasted about an hour, 15, hour and a half. I think we're all worn out. A lot of people, Miss Markworth, Miss Elriega, my assistant, Lisa Fott, also from HR. We had Lori Bratton. We had, I want to give them all shout outs. Jamie Jumper. We had Vicki Fisher. We had Karen was a big part of it. Alicia Winters was a big part of it. Bridget, once again, was a big part of it. So it was a community effort. We really want, and one thing that I really expressed to them is how excited we are to have them be a part of this, and that this is going to be great for the kids. It's going to be great for them. It's going to be great for RHS or RCS, and then it's going to be great for the city. We were just really thrilled to have them here, and they seem very responsive. So.
And just to piggyback, in speaking with the entirety of the Head Start community as we were onboarding and logistically getting them up to speed with the RCS way, it was stated several times of the support they felt as they have been welcomed into the RCS family. And that was one of the things that we were very intentional. And Mr. Del Loriaga, again, was very intentional with helping them understand that they will have the full-fledged support of our entire school corporation, not only within their own classrooms and within their previous operations, but within all of the resources that we have to now serve even smaller students, just as we have in the past, but an abundance of so many more. And I thought that Mrs. Margaret, again, Mrs. Del Loriaga, and our team have just done a tremendous job to establish a foundation that we'll want to build upon, and the momentum is solid. I think they all left with Richmond T-shirts because they're now family members, and pins, and so many other goodies. And I think Mrs. Hazel Baker coolly calls it swag. And so we swagged them out, and I know that the joy that you can see in many of their faces was authentic. So
thank you for the update.
That's what it's called, merch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They call it merch now. They don't call it swag.
Okay.
I know. I'm learning as I go too.
Cool as I thought.
So moving on, a preview of upcoming meetings and events. The next business meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 8th at 5:30 in this boardroom. And the next special policy meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 28th at 4 p.m. Here. It's a little later because of Falls Week.
And we made it later because we're hoping that some teachers have feedback for the AI. And just feedback on any policy that it makes it.
AI
Yeah.
cases key.
That is a good call out. That next
Yes.
policy meeting is at 4 p.m.
Yes.
Emily's sitting out there, not listening to us. But,
Any other teachers?
but if, it is going to be a little later, so if teachers have feedback, they're more than welcome to come.
And also, if they can't be present, if something going, we accept, emails.
Yes.
We've had several community members and people email us, and we bring those emails to the policy meeting and directly reference them, so that's important.
Yes.
I want to hear you.
Great. Okay. So we haven't had a long meeting in a while. Right? So adjournment, bell ringer, Dr. Ray.
Madam President, trustees, I want to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our Director of Student Support Services and Communication rejoin us for this evening's bell ring
Well, you
information.
may have, the weather was a little spotty for us, but we did have a great Title I Super Readers Unite event. Mrs. Vandervoort graciously allowed us to move into her building. So it was really kind of fun to have teachers tour a building they hadn't been in before. So that was, I like that, so that's an idea. But I thought that went really well. And again, we just marked 6 weeks, our 6-week mark. So attendance has been looking great. I just want to thank all of our staff, our paras, our bus drivers, cabinet leadership teams. Everyone's been doing an amazing job. So 6-week checkup. I mean, just it's amazing that we've already had 6 weeks. But again, report cards will be coming out. Thank you.